and I'm looking for similarities between us and BC and Sweden. The species are not unsimilar. The dominant species are spruce, and the other one are pine, and then
Yeah.
some other species. And I think you're showing it here.
Yes.
You know the so where are the differences there, if any?
Yeah. We don't have so many species as you have, but the main, as you said, spruce and pine. And the spruce we have is Picea obis, or Norwegian spruce in English. Very close related to white and black spruce, as you have.
Yeah,
And
because
the pine, yeah,
when I grew up in Holland, and I
yeah,
was involved in the lumber industry there. We used to buy a lot of the rough lumber, cut
yeah,
rough lumber from Sweden in particular. And I remember as a young boy going several times to Sweden in Sundsvall in particular when we picked up boatloads of lumber, mainly spruce. And the
yeah,
spruce always reminds me very similar to what we have in BC or in the
yeah,
interior of BC.
yeah. It's very close related and behavior of the wood also.
And the same with
And
the pine, then, Jan.
the the pine is Scotch pine,
Yeah,
Pinus sylvestris, and quite close related to
lodgepole pine.
lodgepole pine. Yes.
Now, the other part that is different in Sweden, and I'm trying to paint a picture for the people in British Columbia as to
Yeah.
how closely the similarities are and how different they are in other ways. So we know in terms of ownership is totally different. The crown, the actual crown, other than communities and other forms, would not have more than 10, 12, 13% maybe of
Yeah.
the total volume. The rest is
Yes.
all owned in different forms, of which 50% is private in small licenses.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the other part about it, Jan, is that the forest is sustainable yield, is very well managed and regrown because the industry where in British Columbia, the industry goes back to late 30s, 1930-ish, 40s when it took on structure, mainly down the coast, but in the interior, it really didn't start until early
Yeah.
40s and around that time. And they were mainly little small mills, like around the Prince George area, where we are podcasting from now. The right now are less than 4 or 5 sawmills. There used to be 600 sawmills
Yes. I
located
know
in
that.
the bush, and they would go to the bush, have small mills, and they cut lumber and then brought it into town to be planed or dressed and then shipped in carloads to the market, mainly the United States. Tell me a little bit about the history in Sweden, how it evolved a long, long time before that.
Yes. We have another way of history here. It started mainly in the mid 1800, and 1849 we got the first steam powered sawmill, and then it was starting up with a demand that had been growing from Europe a little earlier. In 1800, 30, 40, 50 people from Europe went up to Norway on the west coast of Sweden with demand for timber for cutting to get lumber. And slowly, we call it the timber frontier, moved into Sweden and up north. And we can see along the rivers the dates 1817, 1818, 1890, how the rivers was managed to start to float logs out to the coast to be able to cut into lumber and then for export. And
Right.
Sundsvall, where you had been, went into a big center for the lumber industry for northern part of Sweden. So we can say that for sawmilling, it started in mid 1800, and then pulp and paper 1890, it started to grow up. So we got our first forestry law, Natural Forestry Act, already 1903.